My grandson slipped me a note during dinner last Thursday. His hand was trembling when he pushed it under the table. I unfolded it slowly, keeping my face neutral. Grandpa, it read. Check the storage unit Dad rented last month. Unit 312. The code is Mom's birthday, reversed. You need to see what's inside before Saturday. I looked up at him. He wouldn't meet my eyes. He just stared down at his plate, pushing food around while his stepmother, Melissa, chatted cheerfully about a new boutique she had discovered downtown. That's when I knew something was very, very wrong. Let me go back a bit. My name is Frank Miller. I'm 68 years old, and I live in a quiet neighborhood outside Des Moines, Iowa. 3 years ago, my wife Eleanor passed away after a long battle with cancer. It nearly broke our family, especially our son, Daniel. Daniel was 45 when he lost his mother. We all grieved, but he unraveled in ways I didn't expect. Eleanor had been the center of our family. The steady one. The organizer. The heart. About a year and a half after Eleanor died, Daniel met Melissa at a fundraising event his company sponsored. She was 39. Attractive. Polished. Effortlessly charming. She seemed genuinely interested in him. They married after dating just 7 months. Too fast, I thought. But Daniel had been alone for a long time. His first marriage had ended badly over a decade earlier, and had never really recovered. He had one son from that marriage, Luke, my grandson, 15 years old now. Luke splits his time between his mother's place in Chicago and Daniel's house here in Iowa. When Melissa entered the picture, Luke seemed happy at first. He told me his dad was smiling again. Laughing. Sleeping better. I felt relieved. I thought maybe this woman was exactly what Daniel needed. Melissa was kind to me, too. Called me Dad. Brought homemade casseroles. Asked about my woodworking projects. Complimented Eleanor's old photo albums. She seemed perfect. Then, about 6 months ago, things started to change. Daniel looked exhausted all the time. He lost weight. Dark circles formed under his eyes. When I asked, he blamed stress at work. His consulting firm was restructuring. It sounded reasonable. But then I noticed other things. He became forgetful. Confused. He'd repeat the same story twice in one conversation. Once, he couldn't remember where he'd parked his car at the grocery store. Daniel has always been sharp as a tack. This wasn't like him. Luke noticed too. When he visited, I could see the worry in the boy's eyes. He watched his father carefully, studying him when Daniel wasn't looking. But whenever I tried to ask Luke about it, he shut down. Said everything was fine. Just normal teenage stress. Then came that dinner. Melissa invited me over for what she called a family night. Roast chicken. Mashed potatoes. Gravy. The whole thing. Daniel barely touched his food. He moved it around his plate slowly, uncertainly. Melissa kept touching his arm, saying things like, "You have to eat, sweetheart. You need to keep your strength up." Something in her voice made my skin crawl. That's when Luke passed me the note. I waited until I got home before really letting it sink in. My grandson was asking me to break into a storage unit. To spy on his own father and stepmother. The code was Melissa's birthday, reversed. How did Luke even know about this unit? And what could possibly be inside that was so urgent he'd risk being caught slipping me that note? I didn't sleep that night. I lay staring at the ceiling, thinking about my son's declining health. Thinking about the fear in Luke's eyes. Thinking about Melissa's flawless smile, the kind that never quite reached her eyes. The next morning, I drove to the storage facility off Hickman Road. One of those massive, soulless places. Endless rows of metal doors. No windows. No people. Unit 312 was on the second floor. My heart was pounding as I entered the code. 609,281. The lock clicked. Inside, the unit was nearly empty, except for 3 cardboard boxes stacked neatly in the corner. I turned on my phone's flashlight and opened the first one. Legal documents. My blood ran cold. It was a new will. Daniel's will. Dated just 2 months earlier. Everything, the house, his investments, his retirement accounts, his life insurance, his partnership stake, all of it was left to Melissa. There was no mention of Luke. Not a single line. Daniel's only child had been erased. Then I noticed the signature. It looked like Daniel's handwriting. But something was wrong. The D wasn't right. Daniel always looped it a certain way, a habit Head picked up from his mother. This was close. But not close enough. The second box made my hands shake. Medical supplies. Syringes. Latex gloves. Bottles of medication I didn't recognize. And a small notebook filled with handwritten entries. I flipped through it, my stomach tightening. Dates. Times. Dosages. Increased confusion today. Speech slightly slurred. Memory gaps worsening. Forgot coworker's name during meeting. Balance issues, nearly fell on stairs. Someone was keeping a log. Because someone was causing this. I grabbed one of the pill bottles and searched the name on my phone. Scopolamine. Low doses, motion sickness. Higher doses, confusion, memory loss, cognitive impairment. Too much, potentially fatal. Sometimes called devil's breath. My son wasn't sick. He was being poisoned. The third box made my knees weak. Surveillance photos. Pictures of my house. From different angles. Pictures of me at the grocery store. At the hardware store. On my morning walks. Copies of my bank statements. A floor plan of my house, with certain rooms circled, my bedroom, my office, the file cabinet where I keep important papers. And then I saw it. My life insurance policy. ID named Daniel as the beneficiary years ago, back when Eleanor was still alive. $500,000. A yellow sticky note was clipped to it. One word, written in neat, feminine handwriting, next. I nearly threw up right there in the storage unit. This wasn't just about Daniel's money. Melissa was planning to kill my son, and then she was coming for me. I forced myself to stay calm. I took photos of everything with my phone. Every document. Every page of the notebook. Every surveillance photo. I made sure nothing was out of order when I finished, putting everything back exactly as ID found it. Then I locked the unit and sat in my truck for a long time, gripping the steering wheel. I had to think. I had to plan. If I went to the police right then, would it be enough? A questionable will. Some medications. A disturbing notebook. Melissa could explain all of it away. She could say Daniel asked her to pick up prescriptions. Claim the notebook was her way of tracking symptoms for doctors. Say the will was signed during one of Daniel's confused moments. I needed more. I needed proof she was actively poisoning him. I needed her caught in the act. That evening, Luke called me. We'd never spoken on the phone before. He always texted. His voice was quiet. Shaky. Did you go? He asked. Yes. Did you see it? I saw everything, I said. Luke, how did you even know about that storage unit? There was a pause. I followed her, he admitted. Last week, Dad was at work and she left with those boxes. I thought it was weird. I took my bike and followed her car. I watched which unit she went into. After she left, I tried combinations until one worked. That was dangerous, I said gently. I know. But Grandpa Dad's getting worse. His voice cracked. He collapsed in the kitchen yesterday. Just went down. Melissa called 911, but before the ambulance came, she cleaned up whatever had been drinking. The paramedics said it might be his heart. My chest tightened. They want to run tests, Luke continued. But I know it's her. Eve's seen her put things in his coffee. She thinks I don't notice. But I do. My 15-year-old grandson had figured out the truth, and had been living with that fear alone. Luke, I said slowly, I need you to listen very carefully. Don't eat or drink anything Melissa prepares. Nothing. Make your own food. Eat out if you have to. And don't let her know you're suspicious. Can you do that? I already have, he said. 4 weeks. Good. I'm going to fix this. But I need a little time. Can you hold on a few more days? I think so, he said. Then, quieter, but Grandpa Dad has an appointment with a heart specialist on Friday. I overheard Melissa talking to someone, I think her brother. She said Friday would be the perfect time because everyone would just assume it was his heart. Friday. 2 days away. Whatever Melissa was planning, it was happening soon. I didn't sleep Wednesday night. I researched. Planned. Thought through every angle. Then I called Ray Collins, an old friend from the police force. We'd known each other for over 40 years. Had retired 5 years earlier, but he still had contacts. I told him everything. He listened without interrupting. When I finished, he exhaled slowly. Frank, he said, this is serious. And you're right, we need more. Judges don't like theories, even good ones. They want hard proof. So what do I do? He laid out a plan. It was risky. It required me to act, convincingly, and buy time without tipping her off. But it might work. Thursday morning, I called Melissa. I put on my most concerned father voice. Melissa, dear, Eve been worried about Daniel, I said. He looked so unwell at dinner. I was thinking maybe I should come stay with you for a bit. Help out. Make sure he's eating, resting. There was a pause. Then her voice turned syrupy sweet. Oh, Frank, that's very kind. But honestly, we're managing. Daniel just needs rest. The doctor thinks it's stress from work. I know, I said. But I'm his father. And I don't want you carrying this alone. Another pause. I let my voice tremble. I already lost Eleanor, I said. I can't lose my son too. Please. Silence. I could almost hear her calculating. Well, she said finally, if it means that much to you I suppose it would be all right. Just for a few days. We wouldn't want to impose. No imposition at all, I said. I'll pack a bag and come this afternoon. When I arrived at their house, Daniel answered the door. He looked worse than he had earlier in the week. His skin was grayish. His hands shook when he hugged me. Dad, what are you doing here? Your wife invited me, I said gently. Thought I could help while you're not feeling well. Melissa appeared behind him, smiling brightly. Come in, she said. Eve set up the guest room for you. It'll be so nice having you here. I smiled back. ID brought a small overnight bag. Hidden beneath my clothes were 3 tiny cameras Ray had loaned me. And as I stepped inside that house, I knew one thing for certain. If Melissa thought she was hunting alone, she was wrong. They were tiny. Wireless. Motion activated. That evening, while Melissa was preparing dinner and Daniel was resting upstairs, I placed them. One went into the kitchen, tucked behind the cookbook stand with a clear view of the counter and the coffee maker. Another went into the dining room, hidden among the decorative pieces on the hutch. The third I placed upstairs in the hallway, positioned so it could see the bedroom doors. Luke knew I was there, but Wed agreed to act like we weren't coordinating. When he came downstairs for dinner, he only gave me a small nod. "Hey, Grandpa." "Hey, kiddo," I said casually. "How's school?" "Fine." Dinner was tense. Melissa had made spaghetti and meatballs. I watched closely as she served the plates. Daniel's portion came from a different pot than mine and Luke's. And when Daniel wasn't looking, I saw her sprinkle something extra over his pasta. Spices, she would have said if anyone asked. But I knew better. Daniel ate slowly, almost mechanically, barely tasting the food. Luke picked at his meal. I kept the conversation light, asked Melissa about her day, complimented the sauce, played the role of the grateful, oblivious father-in-law. After dinner, Daniel went upstairs to lie down. Melissa suggested Luke work on homework. Once we were alone, she made me tea. I watched every movement. She didn't add anything to mine. Just smiled and chatted about how nice it was to have family together. "Daniel is so lucky to have you," she said, sitting across from me at the kitchen table. "Not every man has a father who cares this much." "He's my son," I replied. "My only one." I let emotion creep into my voice. "After Eleanor passed, he's all I've got left." "Well, Daniel and Luke, of course," Melissa said quickly. But something flickered behind her eyes. "Luke's a good boy," she added. "Smart. Takes after his father." "Yes," I said. "He does." She sipped her tea, then leaned forward slightly. "You know, Dad," she said lightly, "I've been thinking when Daniel eventually inherits your estate, far in the future, obviously, have you made sure everything is in order? Wills can get messy. I'd hate for there to be confusion or legal stress for the family." There it was. Not even subtle. "Oh, everything's settled," I said calmly. "Updated my will last year with my attorney. Very thorough. And everything goes to Daniel. And if anything happens to him, it all goes to Luke. Family first." Melissa's smile tightened, just barely. "Very sensible," she said. That night, I lay awake in the guest room with my laptop open, watching the live camera feeds through the monitoring software Ray had set up. At 11:47 p.m., Melissa stepped out of the bedroom. She wore a robe and moved quietly down the hallway. My pulse quickened as she descended the stairs. The kitchen camera caught her clearly. She went straight to the cabinet above the refrigerator, the one reserved for items rarely used. She took out a small bottle and a syringe. Then she prepared Daniel's coffee. His special blend. The one he drank every morning. She added liquid from the bottle directly into the coffee grounds, measuring carefully. When she finished, she put everything back and returned upstairs. I sat frozen. I had it. Video proof of her tampering with my son's coffee. Ray had warned me. Do not confront her. Not yet. We needed airtight evidence. Physical evidence. Something the police could act on immediately. A warrant was already in motion for Friday morning. But I couldn't let Daniel drink that coffee. At 6 a.m., I got up before anyone else. I went downstairs, quietly dumped the entire container of coffee grounds down the garbage disposal, and replaced it with a sealed container from the pantry. When Melissa came down at 6:30, I was already seated at the table, newspaper open like I'd been there all morning. "Morning, Dad," she said. "You're up early." "Old habits," I smiled. Never could sleep past 6. "I made a fresh pot of coffee," I added casually. "That blend Daniel likes was empty, so I opened a new one. Hope that's okay." Her face froze, just for a fraction of a second. Then the smile returned. "Oh, that's perfectly fine. Thank you." Daniel came downstairs at 7 o'clock. He looked worse than ever. "I was sick during the night," he said quietly. "Vomited. Felt dizzy." Melissa immediately switched into concerned wife mode, touching his forehead, urging him to sit. "You should stay home," she said. "Or maybe go to the hospital." I folded my newspaper slowly. And waited. Because I knew the next few hours would decide whether my son lived, or not. "I think we should go now," I said firmly. "Have them run the tests." "His appointment is this afternoon," Melissa replied too quickly. "The specialist can see him at 2. We should just wait." "I really don't think waiting is a good idea," I pressed. "Daniel, you look awful, son." "I'm okay, Dad," he said, but his words were slurred. Whatever she'd been giving him, it was already in his system from the day before. "Just need some rest," he murmured. Luke came downstairs for breakfast, backpack on his shoulder. One look at his father and his face tightened with fear. "I don't want to go to school," he said suddenly. "I want to stay with Dad." "You need to go to school," Melissa said sharply. "Your father will be fine. They'll take him to his appointment later." "I can drive him," I offered immediately. "You look exhausted, Melissa. Why don't you stay home and rest? They'll make sure Daniel gets there." For a brief moment, anger flashed across her face. Then she smoothed it away. "That's very kind," she said, "but I need to be there to talk to the doctors about his symptoms." The doorbell rang at 8:15 a.m. Melissa turned toward the door, and I heard her voice rise in surprise. "Can I help you?" "Detective Laura Simmons, Des Moines Police Department," a calm voice replied. "This is Detective Mark Alvarez. We have a warrant to search this residence." 3 uniformed officers stepped in behind them. Melissa's face drained of color. "A search warrant? There must be some mistake." "No mistake," Detective Simmons said, holding up the paperwork. "We have reason to believe evidence of a serious crime is located on these premises. Specifically, medications and related documents." "This is outrageous," Melissa snapped. "Daniel, tell them." But Daniel looked confused, struggling to process what was happening. Luke had backed against the wall, eyes wide. "Actually, officers," I said, standing. "I may be able to help." I pulled out my phone and handed it to Detective Simmons. "I've been documenting evidence for the past few days. This is video footage from last night. Kitchen camera." Melissa spun toward me. "You've been spying on us in our own home." "I've been protecting my son," I said quietly. "Which is more than you've been doing." "They found everything. The bottle of scopolamine hidden in the cabinet. The syringes wrapped in a towel in the master bedroom. Melissa's notebook, which she'd brought home from the storage unit. The tainted coffee grounds in the garbage disposal. And when they searched the storage unit, they found all 3 boxes exactly as I'd photographed them." Once Melissa realized how much evidence they had, she started talking. Not confessing, justifying. She claimed Daniel was mentally unstable. Said she was only trying to help him. Said the will was legitimate, that Head wanted to take care of her. Claimed the medication was prescribed, though she couldn't name a doctor. None of it held up. Forensics found her fingerprints on the forged will. They found her brother's fingerprints too. He was arrested that same day. Turns out he had a record: fraud, forgery, served 2 years. And when investigators dug deeper, they found Melissa had a history as well. 2 previous marriages. Both husbands dead. One from a heart attack. One from an accidental overdose. Neither death had been properly investigated at the time. Daniel was rushed to the hospital. Doctors confirmed scopolamine poisoning. They said if it had continued much longer, it could have caused permanent brain damage, or killed him. They put him on a detox protocol. It took 3 weeks before he was lucid enough to fully understand what had happened. Luke stayed with me during that time. We turned my spare bedroom into his room. Put up posters of his favorite bands. Bought him a better desk for homework. He was quiet at first. Processing. Then one night at dinner, he broke down. I should have said something sooner, he sobbed. I knew something was wrong. I was just scared no one would believe me. I thought maybe I was imagining it. I held my grandson while he cried. You saved your father's life, I told him. You were brave. You were smart. You found that storage unit. You gave me what I needed. Don't ever think you didn't do enough. Daniel made a full recovery. Physically. Emotionally, it took much longer. The betrayal cut deep. He loved Melissa. Trusted her completely. Learning she'd been slowly killing him for money nearly destroyed him. He went to therapy. So did Luke. So did I. We needed it. The trial came 8 months later. Melissa was charged with attempted murder, fraud, forgery, and multiple additional counts. Her brother was charged as an accomplice. The evidence was overwhelming. My video footage. Medical records. The forged documents. The notebook detailing her poisoning schedule. Prosecutors even exhumed her previous husbands. Both showed signs of poisoning. Melissa was sentenced to 25 years to life. Her brother received 15 years. The judge called it one of the most calculated and callous attempted murders he had seen in his career. Daniel sold the house. Too many ghosts. He bought a smaller place not far from mine. Close enough that I can check on him. Close enough that family feels like family again. Luke decided to stay in Des Moines full-time instead of splitting his time with his mother in Chicago. He's 17 now. Doing well in school. Focused. He plans to study criminal justice in college. Says he wants to help people like his father, people who don't recognize danger until it's already too close. I understand that instinct. As for me, I walked away from this with lessons I won't ever forget. First. Trust your instincts. I knew something was wrong with Daniel long before I could explain it. I felt it in my gut. I wish I'd acted on that feeling sooner. Second. Listen to the young people in your life. Luke saw what was happening before any of US adults did. His perspective, unfiltered, uninvested in appearances, saved his father's life. Third. Family isn't defined by blood, and blood alone doesn't make someone family. Melissa was family by law. But she was a predator. Real family is the one that shows up. That protects. That loves without conditions. I also learned that evil rarely looks like evil. It wears a friendly smile. It says the right things. It calls you dad. Melissa fooled all of us for months. Including me. Looking back, the signs were there. Small ones. Easy to dismiss if you weren't looking closely. The way she isolated Daniel from friends. How she discouraged medical visits until she could control the narrative. How interested she was in estate planning and inheritance. In hindsight, the manipulation is obvious. But when someone is warm and kind and seems to care, you want to believe the best. That's what predators count on. Our decency. Our reluctance to assume the worst. I think often about the men Melissa killed before she got to my son. Men whose deaths were ruled accidents or natural causes. Men who had families who never knew the truth. If Luke hadn't paid attention, if he hadn't been brave enough to investigate, if he hadn't trusted me with what he found, Daniel would have been next. And after him, me. And eventually, probably Luke too. She wanted everything. And she was willing to kill everyone in her way to get it. People ask me now what they should watch for. How to recognize someone dangerous. The truth is, you can't always tell. But there are red flags. Moving too fast in relationships. Isolating a partner from friends and family. An unusual fixation on money or inheritance. Inconsistencies in their stories. Charm in public, control in private. Most importantly, listen when someone vulnerable tries to warn you. Luke couldn't come out and say, "My stepmother is poisoning my father." He was a kid. Even to himself, that sounded impossible. So he found another way to point me in the right direction. Children often see what adults miss because they're not invested in keeping things comfortable or polite. They call things as they see them. These days, Daniel, Luke, and I have dinner together every Sunday. We cook. We laugh. We talk about Eleanor and remember her with warmth instead of pain. We rebuilt our family, stronger than it was before, because we survived something terrible together. We know what we almost lost. Luke graduates high school next year. Daniel is dating again, slowly, carefully. And I spend my days in the garage, working on my woodworking projects, grateful for the quiet. Not every story ends this way. Ours did because a scared 15-year-old trusted his instincts, and trusted his grandfather enough to ask for help. And that made all the difference. Life is ordinary now. Quiet. Predictable. Normal. And after everything we went through, ordinary feels like a gift. I'm 68 these days. Some people might think that's too old to have played detective, too old to set up cameras, collect evidence, and help expose someone capable of murder. But age doesn't make you helpless. It makes you experienced. Eve lived long enough to recognize when something doesn't feel right. Long enough to trust that instinct. Long enough to understand that the people who need protection most don't always know how, or feel safe enough, to ask for help. You have to pay attention. You have to be willing to act. If Eleanor were still here, she'd tell me I did the right thing. She'd be proud of Luke for his courage. Grateful that Daniel survived. And she'd probably scold me a little for taking risks at my age, for putting myself in harm's way. But she'd understand why I did it. Because family is everything. And you protect what you love, no matter the cost. The day Melissa was sentenced, Luke asked me if I was glad it was over. I told him the truth. I'm glad she can't hurt anyone else, I said. I'm glad your dad is safe. And I'm glad we're all still here, still together. But he'll never be glad this happened, I added. I wish your father had never met her. I wish you'd never had to carry that fear alone. I wish I'd never had to watch my son fade right in front of me. But we don't get to choose what happens to us. We only get to choose how we respond. And I choose gratitude. Grateful that Luke was observant and brave. Grateful that he trusted me. Grateful that the police took us seriously. Grateful that Daniel survived. Grateful for every ordinary Sunday dinner. Every normal conversation. Every quiet moment of peace. Sometimes, late at night, I still think about how close we came to losing everything. If Luke had waited one more day. If I'd brushed off his concerns. If the police hadn't listened. Those what-ifs can still keep me awake. But morning always comes. Luke sends me a meme he thinks is funny. Daniel calls to ask if I want to watch a hockey game. Life moves forward. And I'm reminded that we're here. We're safe. And we're together. That's what matters. Not the money Melissa wanted. Not the inheritance she was willing to kill for. Just this, a father, a son, and a grandson making it through another day side by side. So watch out for the people you love. Listen when someone notices that something feels wrong. Don't ignore warning signs just because they sound unbelievable. Evil exists. Sometimes it sits across from you at the dinner table with a smile. But love exists too. Courage exists. Justice exists. And sometimes, when you're paying attention, when you're brave enough to act, the good people actually win. That's the lesson I hope people take from our story. Not paranoia. Not suspicion of everyone. But vigilance rooted in love. Protecting someone means noticing. It means trusting your gut. It means acting even when it's uncomfortable, even when you might be wrong, even when you're afraid. Because I would rather be wrong and look foolish than be right and lose my son. Every time. That's what family means. And no amount of money, no estate, no inheritance, is worth more than the people you love. Melissa never understood that. She saw us as obstacles standing between her and wealth. But wealth without love is just numbers on a page. Meaningless. Daniel understands that now. Luke always did. And Eve known it since the day Eleanor and I brought our newborn son home from the hospital, a tiny bundle of possibility and hope. That was real wealth. Everything else was just details.